Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting the exhibition both to Seattle and Minneapolis. We are so delighted to be here. So thank you very, very much. Well, my name is Bit Vejle. I'm a Norwegian-Danish artist and I do paper cutting. And back in 2008, I was aware that the Norwegian-Chinese diplomacy would celebrate their anniversary, their 60th anniversary for cooperation in 2014. And that made me think that this would be a wonderful opportunity to show the Chinese that we also do paper cutting in Scandinavia, because when I thought of China, I didn't really know very much about China, and I thought, what do we have in common? And you know, paper cuts originally started in China, and I thought that was a wonderful way to celebrate this anniversary, to do a paper cut exhibition. So I simply started out doing a lot of research to find the very, very best paper cutter in China. And I searched for a very, very long time, and at last I found a wonderful artist, a wonderful person. His name is Qiao, Professor Qiao. He's a professor at the Kafa University. Institute of Fine Art in Beijing. And what I found out was that he was not only a fantastic paper cutter, but also he had spent 20 years traveling all around China in every province, collecting the paper cuts from the people in the villages. And he had collected these paper cuts and made so that he made a small, you can say, museum for those paper cuttings. So I not only found a wonderful artist, but I also found a person who really knew everything about the original Chinese paper cutting.
Fantastic. And once you found Professor Qiao and you had the idea of this connection between Norway and China, how did the exhibit concepts develop, and you know, how did it come from your idea to exhibitions in China and in Norway, and then to the Channel Islands, and now to the US? What was that journey like?
Well, it was a long journey. As I said, I already started in 2008 and 2009. So I found out that if I would like to make a cooperation with Professor Qiao, I had him to invite me. So I, in some or another way, had to make contact with him, and I found out he couldn't speak a word of English. So I found a translator and we went to visit him, and I proposed the project to Professor Qiao. And I also had an idea that our common theme could be the dragon, because the dragon, the dragon has been with us for all ages. everywhere in the world, but especially in China and Norway, because the Norwegian dragon has been with us ever since eternity, ever since Yggdrasil and the Tree of Life. That is when we hear about the Norwegian dragon for the first time, and also during the Viking Age, the dragon was very, very present. And the dragon in China is even today most present everywhere in the Chinese society. So I thought that would be a wonderful theme to build an exhibition around. So when he committed to the exhibition, I went to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Norway, and they actually liked the idea, and the idea of this could be an artistic way of celebrating the anniversary.
Fantastic. And then once the foreign ministry was enthusiastic about it, were there any challenges with the exhibition when you were putting it together or when it was traveling?
There was this language trouble, but as soon as I met Professor Qiao, we simply just clicked. I don't know if it's something special about paper cutters, but we in a way just could communicate. And then we, of course, had a translator all the time to help us out. So that was how we managed to talk about what we were going to do.
There's an understanding that sometimes dealing with the Chinese government, there's some bureaucratic and other challenges. Did you face any difficulties with the exhibition as it was being developed or during the exhibition?
I can tell you there was a problem, because in 2010, maybe you remember that the Nobel Prize was given to Xiaoguang. And at that point, the Chinese got very, very angry with Norway. So absolutely every communication between the two countries stopped immediately. They would not buy the Norwegian salmon, they would not talk at a diplomatic level either. So actually you could say that we thought our project was finished. But we had this wonderful Chinese-Norwegian project manager, and she said, keep on your work, start cutting, do what you do best, and I will try to find a way. So we did. And in some or another way, she actually managed to get the exhibition into China, and we opened at the day of the anniversary, late 2014 in Beijing.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's always wonderful to see how artistic exchange can lead to fantastic public diplomacy, and it's a great example of that. And once it was exhibited in China and in Norway, I know that it moved to the Channel Islands before now coming to the U.S. How has that evolution and growth of the exhibit happened?
Well, you know, the exhibition is called Paper Dialogues. So it's all about dialogue between cultures. And at first we exhibited in China, in Beijing and Shanghai, after that in Norway, and then we were contacted by Jersey Art House, and they would like the exhibition to come to Jersey. And while I was aware that there were actually a Jersey dragon, I thought this would be wonderful to continue the dialogue and the exhibition to Jersey Island. And in Jersey they have an old story that goes hundreds of years back in time, where they have this Jersey dragon. So now we, in a way, the project evolved in exactly the way that we wanted, to start a dialogue between cultures. And what Jersey did was absolutely wonderful. They established a group of 7 local artists that would go out in all the schools in the island, teaching the children about paper cutting and about the dragon and the dialogue. So they had worked for a long time in the schools before the exhibition arrived. And then Professor Qiao and I had workshops with the artists. And then the artist would go back into the schools and all the children would work on a tremendous big dragon that was exhibited in the library while after our exhibition there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. And I want to change gears a little bit and talk about you and what was your history as an artist and your inspiration to start cutting paper with scissors, and where did that all begin, and how is it that you've become how is it that you've developed your art and your skill?
Yeah. You know, in Denmark we have a wonderful tradition with paper cutting. Every Easter, every child will cut a little paper cut, almost like a snow crystal, and they will put a little poem on it and put a snowdrop, the little flower, as a sign of that the spring is coming up. And this little letter is called a gækkebrev. And this gækkebrev is not signed with your name, but only with 1 dot for each letter in your name. So it's a secret little letter. And this letter you will send to someone that you like very much. And if he does not guess that it is I who has sent it, he is supposed to give me either an Easter egg or a kiss. And you know, all Danish kids loves this, and so did I. So from the age of 5, I was cutting gækkebrev. And in some or another way, I was hooked on this. I really, really liked it. So I cut a lot of gækkebrev. Then, when I was 16, I was for the first time in Tivoli in Copenhagen. And there I saw a man sitting close to the little lake in Tivoli, and he was cutting something that I've never seen before. It was like, it was not like gækkebrev or Christmas paper cuts. It was something very different. It was a little piece of art. And I got completely fascinated. And I stood and watched him for a long, long time. And something happened in my brain that day. Because when I came back, I grabbed my mother's embroidery scissors, and I never ever stopped cutting after that. So that was my start. And for some or another reason, I just continued and continued. And I thought it was a little weird. You know, when I was a teenager, I was paper cutting, and it was not very cool. So it would have been almost the same if I would say to someone, will you come home and see my stamp collection? you can hear it. I cannot say, will you see my paper cuts? So I hid my paper cuts under my carpets. So they were invisible. But I continued cutting, and I got married, I moved to Norway, and I worked at the television station there, but I still was cutting. Then one day, it was a Saturday, I had been cutting a lot, and you know, when I cut, there will be bits and pieces laying on the floor, and my whole house was full of those small paper bits. And then I had a visitor from the television, one of my colleagues coming by, and he saw all that laying on the floor, and he asked, "What are you doing?" And I then told him that I was doing paper cutting, and I showed him some of the paper cuts, and he got so fascinated that he grabbed his telephone, called the Museum of Decorative Arts, and said, "You have to come and see what Bit has under her carpets." And then they came and invited me to have my first exhibition a year after. So I never thought that my paper cuts could have any meaning for others than myself. But at that exhibition, I discovered that people really liked it. They liked the stories that I was telling in the paper cuts. They liked the technique. And also, I think there was a fascination about this huge paper cuts that I'm making, because normally paper cuts are tiny and little, and you also, everybody has tried it and know that it is a little bit difficult. So those big paper cuts, I could see that it made some kind of impression. So I thought I could continue and do exhibitions, and so ever after I have just tried to follow up with the paper cuts the best I can.
Fantastic. It's a wonderful story. I'm curious as far as technique, because this is something that you developed on your own. Mm-hmm. How does your technique and approach to paper cuttings compare to Professor Qiao's technique? Mm-hmm. And do you find there to be similarities or differences?
Mm-hmm. Well, Professor Qiao, first of all, he has a big pair of scissors. They are like this, and mine are like this. So that, of course, means that he has a much rougher way of cutting his paper cuts. It's a more masculine way, and mine is more feminine, so to speak.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to work very well. When you came to the idea of the dragon and the dialogue between the Norwegian dragon and the Chinese dragon, how did you decide on what pieces to create? What was that like, and what were the stories you were telling?
Yeah. Well, Professor Qiao decided rather fast that he would make a 9-meter long dragon. And I, of course, thought, okay, then I will make a 12-meter long. But of course not, because I want to show respect for this wonderful big country. So I decided that I would make 7 dragon eggs, because everybody knows about dragons, but have you ever seen a dragon egg? You have never. They, of course, comes from a dragon egg. And eggs are a wonderful symbol for new beginnings. So that was why I chose to make 7 dragon eggs. And I have divided them into 3 sections. The 3 first dragon eggs that are 1 meter high, approximately. They will tell the story of the dragon, the Norwegian Scandinavian dragon, from the very beginning or from the past. Then I have a very huge dragon egg which represent the present, and it's very big because this is where we are now. And then there are 3 more eggs representing the future. So that was how I built up the story of the dragon eggs.
And each of those eggs within those 3 sections tell wonderful stories. Are there any of the stories that you want to share with us just quickly?
Well, I can tell you that what I really, really wanted was that my dragon story should catch the interest of the Chinese public, the Chinese viewers of the exhibition. And how could I do that? If I told it from my point of view, it would be too exotic, too difficult to capture. So I chose a completely other way. In respect for the Chinese culture, I studied it very carefully, and I tried to find motives and stories that they would know a little bit about, that could connect the 2 countries, and then in my hope to catch their attention and curiosity. So, for example, Chinese really like the number 8. That stands for everything that has with good fortune to do. So when I would like to tell the story about the Norwegian oil resources, I chose to make the image as follows. Oil drops are dropping down from a star together with an anchor, number 8, and diamonds. That is a symbol of the oil that Norway is so fortunate to have. And under this rain of oil drops, a Norwegian man and a Norwegian woman is standing, holding a rose marlet bowl to carefully collecting those oil drops, because Norway want to share this fantastic fortune they have with not only the Norwegians but with the whole world. So to use the number 8, I caught the attention of the Chinese. They would like to know, why are there number 8 in that section of the papercut? And they would then be curious to understand what is it about this oil in Norway and their willingness and wish to share with the whole world their fortune. Do you understand?
Fantastic. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Are there other stories that you'd like to share?
Oh, yes, very much. So, yes, there is also in egg number 4 2 small dragon eggs that has just hatched. And 2 small dragons are coming up, a Norwegian and a Chinese. And they look at each other, and it is love with first sight. So they immediately start a dialogue about how to solve the pollution problems. And that conversation evolves in the picture or in the papercut with cars and factories and all the smoke and pollution that comes from that. And that smoke evolves into monks painting the screen. So there are 3 stories connected that also will catch a Chinese interest, because they love everything that is romantic, and they love that those 2 dragons just fall in love, and therefore they want to know more. Why are they falling in love? What are they talking? What is the dialogue? So that's the way I have worked into every item in the papercut.
How was the exhibit received in China?
Oh, the Chinese are so wonderful. They are so interested. They really asked questions, and they were very interested. Their paper cuts are very different from mine. So they were amazed to see another way of doing paper cuts. And I was actually invited to the most popular talk show in China, Star Avenue it's called, where I was interviewed and my paper cuts were shown. And also, of course, the Chinese television were, and radio and magazines and newspapers were at both the openings in China, both in Beijing and Shanghai.
Fantastic.
So I almost felt like a star.
You're always a star. And again, I know your work, and you've visited both Minneapolis and Seattle and other areas in the U.S. with your exhibition, and it's great to be able to invite you back to the U.S. And it's been an interesting journey. I'm curious, when you're thinking about the experience the visitor has, what would you hope for the visitor leaves after he or she experiences the exhibition?
Oh, my hope would be that they will be inspired and uplifted, and maybe get a feeling that they themselves can do a difference when it comes to dialogue with other people in other cultures, and to be what is that called in English? To be open for and not afraid, but more curious to find out more about the other cultures.
Fantastic. And what are so the exhibition has been in China, in Norway, the Channel Islands, and now the U.S., Seattle and Minneapolis. Every time it seems that it expands a little bit. What do you see as the future of this exhibition moving forward?
Yeah, we are so lucky, because in Jersey they wanted to cooperate with us, and that's how the dialogue will continue. So now here in Seattle and Minneapolis, we of course have the Jersey dragon with us as well. And our hope is that the exhibition will continue and get even more dragons with us. So wherever in the world there will be an opening for the exhibition to come, we will come, and we have space for many dragons.
Fantastic. Well, Bit, thank you so much for allowing us in Minneapolis and Seattle to share your work with the audiences here, and we wish you nothing but good fortune. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.